In terms of a Mount Rushmore of the Premier League, I hope that you've all given this the due diligence that it deserves. The Mount Rushmore of the Premier League. No managers allowed.
I think there's one that we all have to agree on as Premier League fans, as football fans, and this is bias aside. The first one for me would be Ryan Giggs, based on longevity.
Oh, hang on. Before you go any further, because I just did a nod and Miles just looked at me like, you're insane.
You're insane.
I need to hear more from Miles immediately. Over
Ryan
to you,
Giggs?
sir.
No way.
Why so?
No, he doesn't go. He's not the greatest Premier League player to ever play the Premier League. He's not. He's the longest serving. He's won the most Premier Leagues. Fair enough. You get on Mount Rushmore. You're not first on there. Could be second or third.
Well, that's not the point, is it? Mount Rushmore isn't a ranking system. All four of the presidents on the original Mount Rushmore, they're just on there. There's no ranking system. I started with Ryan Giggs because he's won 13 Premier League titles. He was world class for multiple seasons, won PFA Player of the Year. He has to be. He's one of the faces of the Premier League.
He's on the side then. He's on the side. Because if there's a Mount Rushmore, there's four faces. You want to be the.
It doesn't.
the two
Honestly,
in the middle,
Miles,
right?
it doesn't matter. It's just a Mount Rushmore. It doesn't matter.
But that's how it works, though. You remember?
It's not a ranking system. So Ryan Giggs has to be somewhere on Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you've got to have at least one, Man United representative, if not more, because of what they've done. I know it's very hard to separate our own individual Premier League journeys, I think, as at the ages that we are, because we've all grown up in that Man United period of dominance. But if you're a younger Premier League fan, and you're say under 20 or under 25, Man United aren't those guys.
No, but you have to, regardless of your age, it's your responsibility to know, isn't it?
No, of course it is. And that's why you've got to have representatives on there from that team. I think if you're going to have one, which you do have to have, and you look at the others that could stand out, like the Scholeses and the Keanes, all
Rooney?
these guys. The Rooney, exactly. I mean, for me, if you were going to have one more, it would probably be Rooney ahead of Scholes and Keane.
Because what you could almost do with the Giggs shout, which I completely agree with, by the way, what Giggs could do is personify the era. So Giggs is the Abraham Lincoln on the Mount Rushmore that represents the class of '92.
Yeah.
So Giggs up there, he is the representative of Beckham and Scholes, and in some way.
I think that makes
I do agree. You brought up Wayne Rooney. I think that again, that's almost a given.
Yeah, I think, not to be kind of about the country or whatever, but this is the English Premier League, and we have to have an English player that represents maybe the most amount of titles won. Obviously,
Just call Ryan Giggs Ryan Wilson, and
Yeah,
he
Ryan
can
Wilson.
he can be our English representative.
Exactly.
Wilson.
But Steven Gerrard didn't. It'd be hard. We can debate maybe Gerrard in a minute, but Gerrard obviously never won the Premier League title. There's only 4 spaces. Maybe I'm being really harsh. Lampard obviously is very, very close for a lot of people, I'm assuming as well. But Wayne Rooney and the cinematic quality of how Rooney started his career, the goals, the quality of goals, moving to Man United, playing for Everton.
I also think,
is amazing.
do you know why I think Rooney is a must as well? I know that every footballer's story is interesting, but if you think about Wayne Rooney, coming through as a kid, he was a street footballer.
Yeah, he was.
He was different.
I think when he was 17, like I said on this podcast before, I think he was the best team to ever play in football. When he came onto the world stage and he was against the best of them, he was world class at 17, 18.
Of course.
Yamal's probably the first person since him to actually
Get any kind of level.
Yeah, he was.
Spence, was Rooney in your...
Well, this is the problem, I think, is where how you do this. Are you saying you need the 4 single best players to play in the league? Are you saying the 4 biggest contributors? Are you saying a player from, say, 4 of the best teams?
I think this
just
is an
symbolise the
emotional
Premier
one.
League.
I
Yeah,
think
it is an emotional
the way that I've done it, I think that you can... There's no such thing as a wrong answer.
Well, for me, you have to have a Chelsea player. You have to have a Chelsea player in there just because of what they've done in the league. You could make a case to have an Arsenal player for sure, and I think there's
Make a case?
that stands out there. Well, no, I'm just looking completely neutrally here about titles won first and foremost. And if you're going to use that logic, you have to have a City player over an Arsenal player.
No way.
And based on that logic, I'm
No
just
way.
saying
On that logic.
whether you use that logic or not is different.
City are the second most successful
No
club
way,
in Premier League
no way.
history.
They've won
For
more
me-
Premier League titles.
Yeah, but it's about evolution of the Premier League, right? And
Is
Arsenal, yeah.
But that's why I don't
Arsenal's
think that's why
evolution-
I think there's an Arsenal player, not a Chelsea player, because I
Yeah,
think the
we've
Arsenal era in
evolutionised.
the 90s and City have got more titles. I mean, there's only 4 spaces. I think United have to have probably a couple of spaces, really. So I put
the
Giggs and Rooney for
evolution,
sure.
though, I'm not a hater by any means, but the evolution, you did something, you won a league or 2, and then everyone else did it, and you stopped winning.
Yeah, but it's the evolution. It's the way we done it, though. When we came in, when Arsene Wenger came in respectfully into this league, he evolutionized.
So who's your
Which is
Arsenal
why,
player?
if you're doing a manager's one, you have Wenger.
No, but not even just the player. That Henry, we can't. For me, Henry has to be on
would be
there.
the one, but I think you've got to process elimination. So if we say we had Giggs, right? I think you've got to have a Chelsea player. I think it probably has to be Frank Lampard. you could put John Terry in there, but I'd probably err towards Frank Lampard just because the amount of goals he scored from that position is crazy. If we're talking about players, you have to have Alan Shearer on there. I'm sorry, but you have to. If you're talking about players, just because he didn't, he did win the league.
Top goals. Yeah, he wasn't. But do you know, this is interesting. Have you got a 4 in your head? Do you know your 4? Does everybody know their 4? Maybe we should all just say our 4 and go from there.
I can think of 4.
Okay, I'll start while you think. My 4 are Ryan Giggs, Wayne Rooney, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard. They are the Mount Rushmore. That is George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. That represents the Premier League to me. It represents Premier League football to me. If there was a 5th and a 6th, I would undoubtedly start considering Sergio Aguero. I would start considering Thierry Henry. I would start considering Dennis Bergkamp. I think you could look a little bit further back and start considering Tony Adams.
You're not having Shearer?
Again,
he scored more goals than anyone else in the history of the Prem.
There isn't room.
He's played in not the best teams either, by the way.
It isn't about Shearer, by the way. I love and respect and admire Alan Shearer tremendously, as I do Thierry Henry. I just can't not have Rooney. Ryan Giggs, for obvious reasons. Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard are Premier League to me. I think that
I think you're wrong. Steven Gerrard, what did he do in his position that Alan Shearer didn't do in his position? I'll tell you one thing Shearer did that Gerrard didn't do is he won the league.
Yep.
But outside of that, you can't say that Gerrard was a better centre mid than Shearer was a striker, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, he was. He was third on the Ballon d'Or list. I mean, Shearer never got close to that.
Shearer was a striker.
Gerrard won
Gerrard
won the Champions League single-handedly. Gerrard was a way better footballer than Alan Shearer.
It's just the longevity for Shearer, really. He was there first.
No, but he was injured an awful lot as well.
I know, but at the same time, that's a big.
The other thing
it's a big help.
The other thing for Shearer, like to recover from those injuries and guarantee 30 goals. The other thing that we have to remember is the luck. Not luck, but the choice that, say, Wayne Rooney had was that he didn't stay at Everton and he went to play with the best players in the world at Manchester United and win European Cups, link up with Cristiano Ronaldo. Alan Shearer didn't do that. He did it. He popped off to see Stuart Ripley and them boys and won a league, but then went back. So he was scoring these goals, guaranteeing these goals, whilst doing it for a team that were never the best team in the country, which is almost more impressive. He was doing it for his love of his club and his love of football rather than for the trophy.
Gerrard deserves credit for doing the same thing with Liverpool, but I think Liverpool were a better team than Newcastle.
Liverpool were the best team in Europe.
Gerrard had enough sort of
at one point, Gerrard was in the best midfield in the world, so the Pop used to sing.
Exactly.
Steven Gerrard, Xavi Alonso and Mohamed Sissoko. They believe that was the best midfield in the world.
And you also
Shearer never had the best anything in the world when he was playing for Newcastle.
No, you can't consider the fact that they won the Champions League either because that's irrelevant to the conversation.
Yeah.
So,
but Gerrard to me is Premier League. Like, he just represents. You know when people are doing that.
But you're talking about Giggs representing the United faction, for example. And how does not Lampard do that job as well as winning all the?
What Lampard could represent the Gerrard battle.
English midfielder.
I think that's fair.
The way they play football is important as well. Lampard and Gerrard, the physical powerhouse kind of traditional English midfielders with the quality of goals.
You're doing the same thing that England managers did for years, that you're trying to get Gerrard and Lampard in the same
team. I could have made it work though. I was like Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho broke his neck trying to sign him for Chelsea. He could have made it work.
The guy scored more goals in the Premier League than anyone else.
If aliens came down, you had to advertise the Premier League. No, it's just an example. Okay, someone who lives in a random country.
I like it.
They come here and they say, explain the Premier League to us with 4 players. You wouldn't say Alan Shearer. You really wouldn't. Henry has to be in there. Aguero for his moment.
Have you got your 4? Let's all do our 4. I've given my 4.
The final 2 for me would be Sergio Aguero and Thierry Henry, because I think the moment that can I at least finish the point? What you say to someone that doesn't know anything about the Premier League is that you show them the Sergio Aguero moment. You show them that. It's going to be hard for me to talk if you're going to laugh while I'm talking.
I'm just
trying to explain the point.
No,
you have to agree. You don't have to agree.
No, I'm not agreeing, Buvey. No. And I'm just saying, it blew my mind. I'd never expect Aguero to even be on this table.
One of the highest scorers in the Premier League, and he scored the most iconic moment in Premier League.
Doesn't mean anything, according to you.
But he's got the goals that are comparable to Alan Shearer. He would have scored more goals than Alan Shearer with goals to game ratio if he'd stayed as long as Alan Shearer. But the one moment that you show someone on a TV screen, in a cinema, what is Premier League? It is the Aguero moment against QPR. I don't think Alan Shearer has those moments, respectfully. He doesn't have those iconic goals. We're talking about the most iconic goal in English football history.
How can you have an iconic goal if you're finishing like 9th in the league or whatever? Like,
no, he won the Premier League as well with Blackburn Rovers. It's not his fault, of course not. And he obviously scored some unbelievable goals. But the Aguero moment is the number 1 moment in Premier League history. And that's what you would show to advertise the Premier League. I don't think it's a mad shout to say Aguero has to be somewhere on the Mount Rushmore.
If it's a 10-man Rushmore,
It'd be Henry and Sergio Aguero.
And Giggs and
Wayne Rooney.
oh, okay.
And yours, Miles?
I'd go for Thierry Henry, Steven Gerrard. Definitely have to put Gerrard in there. It's blasphemy if you don't. Personally, I think so.
Does no Premier League title weigh into your decision?
Yeah, no. Just like I think he's been one of the faces for the Premier League, and not just for the Premier League, football in general, world football. Like he's a legend. Obviously, he didn't get it over the line for Liverpool, but he's on there. He's been in the Premier League since he's a kid. He's had a great career, stellar career, played multiple positions, one of the best midfielders in an era where there was serious midfielders, great talent. So yeah, I definitely have to put Stevie G in there. Stevie G, Thierry Henry. I would say Wayne Rooney over Ryan Giggs. I understand Ryan Giggs is one more, and he means probably more to Manchester United fans, him coming from the academy. But what Wayne Rooney done as a child, street footballer, the way he came into the game, as he was one of the best teenagers ever in world football, came and blew the Premier League away and just made Man United get to that next level. He took it from the 92 era, that whole Scholes, Giggs, Beckham. He took it from that level to the next era. He's the era for that generation of kids, not the Scholeses and that. That's the Rooney era. So he goes on there. So it's Rooney, Henry, Gerrard, and the fourth person I would put a Chelsea player in there, because the way how Chelsea did come into the Premier League, with Abramovich and Mourinho, you lot just switched it all up. Like I said, for Arsenal, it's all about evolution. Even though I don't believe your evolution was better than ours, but it's still something that you've done, and you've stamped your foot in the Premier League history. So I'll give it to Frank Lampard, definitely. And I think he was the main point of that. Yeah, one of the staple.
And Spencer, I think that's So yes,
I'd go definitely Giggs or Rooney. So I'd say Giggs. I'd go Frank Lampard. You have to have a Chelsea representative in there. I would have Alan Shearer in there, I think. And then I think for the fourth one, it's between Henry and Aguero. And I think I'd have to go a Man City representative, just because they've won more leagues. And this is not, it's just the Premier League at the end of the day. Like, when I'm looking at records, so I'm going to go. I think Henry was one of the best players, and maybe the best player to ever play in the Premier League. I'm on board with that. But in terms of the Mount Rushmore, the legacy they left in terms of winning things, I think you've got to go City person.
And who?
And then be between probably Aguero and Vincent Kompany for me. I'm a bit biased towards Kompany, but I'll go Aguero, so no one can.
And now what we need to do, we need to take all of our suggestions and come up with an agreement.
Well, Giggs is 3 out of 4, right?
Giggs is in. Do you know what I didn't do with my list, which I probably have made a mistake? All of you have spoken about the representation of the club, which I think is quite intelligent. I didn't do that, unsurprisingly. I just went, in my head, Rooney, Giggs, Lampard, Gerrard. I didn't think City do deserve a representative.
I think what you could do to come up with a sort of one we all agree on is if you sort of separate it and say, right, let's pretend there's a Mount Rushmore of managers. That's handling the managers. Let's pretend there's a Mount Rushmore of clubs. That's handling the clubs. This is about the players. So if you're doing players, it's maybe about the 4 best players that played in the league. And you can't put Ronaldo in there because you didn't do it for very long.
So did Thierry Henry, as glorious a footballer as Thierry Henry,
he's definitely in there. If you're just going on players, he's definitely in there, Henry.
Okay,
so going on how good they were.
Especially
I can't believe we've not even talked about Henry. We talked more about Alan Shearer than Thierry Henry. I mean, he's in a whole different galaxy
I would take Shearer out.
Alan Shearer.
But then out of my list,
Thierry Henry's number 1 in Premier League players ever for how he played the game, the amount of goals.
But does he represent Premier League era? Does he represent?
He was invincible. He won 3 Premier League titles. He's the highest scorer foreign player to come over. He brought this exotic kind of va-va-voom quality to the Premier League that it didn't really have in the early 90s. He exemplifies everything cinematic about prime Barclays.
When you say
football.
It didn't have it in the 90s, like the continental flavour, like Eric Cantona was chipping a keeper against Sunderland.
I think Henry took it to a whole different level. Henry was on the face of every billboard, every advert. I mean, and obviously it happened before.
So out of my list is Rooney, Giggs, Lampard, Gerrard. I will concede that Thierry Henry deserves to be in.
Take Giggs
out of those, who are you kicking out?
Giggs out. If you're talking about footballers,
Giggs.
I'll kick Gerrard out. He never won the title. I know it's harsh, but...
So you're saying Gerrard out. Miles, it sounds like you have the deciding vote. Spencer's saying Giggs out. Buvey saying Gerrard out. Who do you kick out from that list?
Giggs or Gerrard?
I've potentially taken both out.
Or you've potentially taken both out and you've changed the game altogether. You reinvent the wheel.
Giggs or Gerrard? Who would I take out? Oh, man.
To accommodate Thierry Henry.
No, Henry's in there, so it's not accommodating Henry. It's accommodating someone else, for me personally. But
No, it will accommodate Henry.
Yeah, I know, but... God...
Are we talking about players now? Yeah, like how good they were at football, not necessarily.
No, it's
era.
not only that. Because if it's that, then Henry's probably first and
Yeah,
Bergkamp's in it as well then.
No, it's
No,
not
it's
because Bergkamp doesn't represent. Bergkamp,
Yeah,
no,
that's
it's
what I'm-
Henry. It's
that's
not.
what
It's
I'm
not.
saying.
Henry is.
That's what I'm saying. If it's about how good they are, which it isn't, then I'd say Bergkamp is in there
So
as
what
well.
do you think it is about then? If
It's about representation of the Premier League era.
and Henry is a big part of that. He's on. He,
Yeah,
he
Henry-
was a
Henry-
big-
Henry's a-
Yeah, Miles.
Yeah.
What I said was, Spencer said, "Is it about how good the players are?" And I said, "No, it isn't, because if it was, that would mean Bergkamp is in there
But
as
if
well."
it's about what you're saying, you have to have Shearer in there. You have to have Shearer in there. If it's about what you're saying, representation of the era, scored more goals than anyone else over a period of.
I
Give me a
think
goal that he scored.
volley against Everton for
It's
Newcastle.
the same level as on the Henry
Well,
flick,
they're still
the
different.
Aguero
Hang on,
goal.
no,
I
More
could
about the
name
most
loads of
important
Shearer
goals
goals,
scored
Booth.
then.
I could name loads of Shearer goals, honestly.
Let's
I
do
can
a
name
different
over
Mount
100
Rushmore
goals.
about the
Not the
most
same way.
important
No
goals.
way near.
Different Mount Rushmore. Well, it's not the same.
What was that?
So your Buvey's talking about like a Mount Rushmore of the most important goals scored. We're talking about the era. The era is not a goal.
I don't think it's
but
fair to
goals
dismiss
are
Alan
obviously
Shearer's
symbolic
goals
of what
either. I
happens
couldn't-
in the league of football, isn't it? I mean, the big goals
Well, no,
symbolise
so
what happens.
if Aguero's goal in that moment was scored by Micah Richards, are you putting him on the Mount Rushmore?
But it wasn't. It was scored by one of the most prolific strikers
Yeah, but
in the
that's a good
history
point,
of
that's
the
a good
league
point.
that
Doesn't
won
You
five
can't talk
Premier League
about
titles.
a goal. Anyone could have scored that goal.
Is there anyone that we're completely in
no,
agreement
no.
on? Is Wayne Rooney? Are we completely in agreement on Wayne Rooney? Unanimously.
he should be in.
Okay, Rooney's in.
Yeah,
Okay,
Rooney, yeah.
non-negotiable. We got one. I think we're all in agreement. Lampard. I think everybody has agreed Lampard.
I've not
Booby
said
hasn't.
Lampard technically. No, I've not.
Miles said Lampard.
I'd say-
Spencer
I'd say
said
Lampard.
Okay.
a three, which means
Democracy.
Lampard. Okay, so hang on, we're getting somewhere
He
now.
played for 3 of the 4 teams represented here as well.
He played.
Does help.
Yes, he did. Although he didn't play for Miles's team, and he's put him in, and Buvey,
Yeah,
Judas,
true.
has not.
Judas.
So we've got Lampard, we've got Rooney. We're halfway to heaven.
Got 2 Brits.
We're halfway to heaven. Is the next one Thierry Henry? Is that what we're doing?
Has
Yep.
to be. Has
Has to be Thierry Henry.
He's number one.
I can't argue with Henry.
Has to be-
Okay,
Henry.
right. Thierry Henry is in, which now means I'm going to tell you the names, and you all just have to. I don't want to hear any opinion. I just want to hear the name. I'm going to tell you the ones that it's between. It's between Alan Shearer, Ryan Giggs, Steven Gerrard,
And Aguero.
And Aguero.
and Sergio Aguero.
You've got no Man City player.
And Sergio Aguero. It's between.
Yeah, but we've snuck Lampard in there somehow. Roy's done it very well by putting Lampard at the start of the discussion, so he's kind of
but
banked in.
Hey,
Aguero
that's
gets
not-
in over
that's not what-
Lampard.
Yeah, he snuck in Lampard.
I don't think-
Lampard
I don't think-
deserves
I'm
to be
joking. I just think it'd be
Who were the
Giggs,
names
wouldn't
you
it?
said?
It'd be Giggs.
Aguero?
So it's
Gerrard,
one of
Giggs.
Gerrard, Giggs, Aguero,
That has to be Giggs. Has
Gerrard,
to be
Giggs, Aguero, Shearer. Gerrard, Giggs,
We're going
Aguero,
to get
Shearer.
slaughtered, lads, if we don't put Giggs in. We're going to get slaughtered, aren't
But
we?
you could take Rooney out if you're going to put Giggs in.
I don't think Man
You
United
can't
fans
have
will moan either way. though.
Rooney is in.
hard.
I don't think Man United fans would moan either way. It'd be
They do.
marginal.
They moan all the time.
Gerrard.
What we should do is
Okay,
we'll
wait.
write down that name.
I'm
here,
now
reveal
gonna
it
just.
straight.
I'm gonna force the issue here. Your options, and I need names: Gerrard, Giggs, Shearer, Aguero. That's your. We all have to say one name.
I know who I got. Anyway.
Do
Go on, you go first then. Say the name.
Steven Gerrard.
I feel strongly about the Shearer one, to be honest.
Oh, we could be at deadlock here.
It's not going to win the vote, so I'm going to go Aguero then.
Aguero, wow.
because of what you were saying about representation, I think it is Aguero.
I'll say Aguero for the moment alone, the goal against QPR.
So that sums up our Mount Rushmore.
Aguero on that.
Our Mount Rushmore is
It's crazy.
Sergio
Miles. It's like a
Aguero.
basic understanding of Premier League history, man. It is. Top 5 scorers ever.
Scandalous that Alan Shearer's not on there. Absolute scandal.
Sergio Aguero is George Washington. Abraham Lincoln is
It's
Frank
Thierry
Lampard.
Henry.
Thierry Henry. And who was the fourth? Wayne Rooney. That's our
Is what president is that?
Roosevelt?
I don't even know.
George Washington.
Washington.
George Washington.
Can I just
Wayne
ask one quick
Roosevelt.
question? It's locked in. Is Aguero the best player to ever play for Manchester City?
Well,
Is
he's
he-
probably the one associated
Most
with that era
iconic.
the most.
Best
You could have
striker.
David
Most
Silva,
iconic.
David Silva or Vince.
Most like, he's not. He's the most iconic. He's definitely like he might not be a. You could have a debate. It's a completely
But I
different
think a
debate.
big
But you could have a
question is
debate at David Silva. Or
How many years before Haaland's on there? It won't
Lot.
be many.
Couple of seasons.
lot.
Couple of seasons.
Oh, I mean, how many? So what did Henry won 3 Prems? Yeah,
I don't
mate?
care about the Premier League. It's about what he's
Ireland's
done.
won 2.
just got to win this year.
Okay, cool. And how many Premier Leagues has John Stones won? Is he
More
is
than
he,
Arsenal Football Club.
John Stones.
Is
on
he
Mount
better-
Rushmore
is he
makes
better
a lot
than Rio
of sense to think about
Ferdinand?
Stones.
Is he better than John Terry? All these
I never
guys
said-
because
I
he
never
could
said that.
potentially pass
I never
them.
said that.
We
John
never
Terry's
said
won
that.
more
Just saying.
titles than John Stone.
But I'm just saying though. You're going off 2 titles, but Henry's won 3. He
All
would
I'm
never.
saying-
I want
he-
Henry in the list. I don't know
I'm just saying, but he.
All I'm saying as a neutral, right? Premier League is whatever 30 years old.
Yeah.
Give it another 5-10 years. Henry's in trouble, mate.
Yeah, he has to do 5'10".
He's in trouble.
Now Henry would never be in trouble.